Love is supposed to be the safest place, but sometimes it turns into pure hell. It's horrifying when the very man you love and trust becomes a cold-blooded killer. There is nothing more painful than realizing that the same hands that once caressed you, once swore eternal love, are now the very hands tightening around your throat, taking your life away. And this nightmare didn't just exist in fiction, it actually happened in Hollywood. 17 beautiful, talented black actresses were murdered by their lovers in ways so gruesome, calculated, and merciless that the entire world was left in shock. Behind the shining stage lights, they endured unjust deaths soaked in blood and tears. In today's video, we will expose every one of these haunting tragedies, truth so raw and disturbing that you may find it hard to believe human beings are capable of such cruelty. 17. Terresa Graves, the star left to die in the flames. The list begins with Terresa Graves, a shining star of 1970s Hollywood who became a symbol in the action film Get Christie Love. But few knew that behind the glory of a famous star was a woman crushed by the very relationships that drained her. Teresa's love affair with Raymond began when she was at the peak of her career, with a handsome and charismatic man. Raymond was an ambitious financial broker, like a shark in the world of powerful meetings. He knew how to build relationships, how to make others bow down to him, and of course, he did that with Teresa. His sweet words whispered in her ear made her fall deeply in love, making her feel like she was the only one who mattered in this vast world. But things didn't go as the love stories in movies often do. Soon after Raymond entered Teresa's life, he began to reveal a different side of himself. The initially sweet relationship gradually turned into a nightmare, as Raymond not only demanded she give up career opportunities she had always desired, but also began controlling every step of her personal life. She was no longer herself, no longer the bright star loved by Hollywood. Their frequent arguments made Teresa feel like she was trapped in an invisible cage. In 1978, when Teresa refused to pass up a crucial role, it drove Raymond into a frenzy. He smashed furniture in their house, shouting that she would lose everything if she didn't obey him. The threats grew more serious, and Teresa began to feel like she had no choice but to withdraw from the projects she once dreamed of. Every move she made seemed to be tightly controlled, and she began to feel an overwhelming fear, even of the men she had once loved. In 1981, their relationship ended, but Raymond's silence was not the end of the nightmare. Teresa withdrew from Hollywood, living a reclusive life in a small house in Los Angeles, hoping to forget everything. But the past wouldn't let go. The ghosts of Raymond were always there, watching and threatening her whenever she seemed to find peace. The anonymous calls, the cryptic messages kept Teresa from ever feeling safe. On the night of October 10, 2002, the final tragedy struck. Teresa returned home after a long day. She sat in the living room, immersed in her favorite music, trying to escape the haunting thoughts in her mind. But then the phone rang. She picked it up, only to hear heavy breathing, then silence. Deathly silence. The sense of unease made her stand up and look out the window, and suddenly she felt an inexplicable chill. It was like someone was watching her from the darkness. As she stood up, flames erupted from the kitchen, quickly spreading throughout the house. Teresa panicked, running toward the door but unable to open it. The fire consumed everything, and in her final moments, she screamed in despair, as if all the memories of control, threats, and Raymond were burning her life. Suspicion immediately fell on Raymond. No explanation from him, no words of comfort. He didn't show up at the funeral, not once daring to face the consequences of his actions. The previous threatening calls, the suspicious signs, made one wonder. Could the fire have been an act of revenge from the man who had manipulated and destroyed her life? Teresa Graves' death in that haunting fire was not just the end of a star, but a painful story of being forgotten, of wounds that would never heal. 16. Jayne Kennedy, from beauty queen to actress. Destroyed by a sex tape. Next, we turn to the story of Jayne Kennedy, a symbol of black beauty in 1970s Hollywood. She not only stood out for her seductive looks, but also for being a model of feminism and freedom, having captured the hearts of millions. But behind that bright glow was a dark tragedy that few knew, as her husband, Leon Isaac Kennedy, was the one who pushed her into an irreversible dark corner. Just 1 year after they married, the relationship between Jayne and Leon began to show cracks that couldn't be repaired. Leon, a struggling actor and ambitious producer, grew jealous and frustrated as Jayne's career skyrocketed. His insecurities didn't just lead to frequent arguments, but quickly escalated into something more sinister. In June 1980, during a heated argument in their Los Angeles apartment, Leon coldly declared that he would do whatever it took to destroy his wife's career. "If I can't have you, no one else will," he said with chilling indifference. And truly, Leon followed through with that ruthless threat. In March 1981, all of Hollywood was shocked when a sex tape of Jayne Kennedy was leaked. The entertainment community immediately speculated that Leon was behind the release, spreading the tape as a form of revenge for his wife's growing fame. From that moment on, everything Jayne had built came crashing down. She was not only hurt by the violation of her privacy, but also became a victim of cruelty and ruthlessness from the very man she had once loved. But Jayne Kennedy's tragedy didn't stop there. After the tape was released, her career was completely destroyed. Offers to appear in films were canceled, and her reputation was ruined by malicious gossip. The sense of betrayal didn't just come from the public, but also from her husband, the very person who had promised to love and protect her. The pain from that scandal haunted her for the rest of her life, and she withdrew from the public eye, living in the shadows of her own hurt. 15. Lola Fana, the death of a star. The tragedy continued with Lola Fana, the Queen of Las Vegas, a beauty and talent icon of the 1970s, with mesmerizing performances that captivated the entire city. During the dazzling nights in Las Vegas, she was treated as a mere sexual plaything by powerful men who came, used her, and left when their interest faded. One prominent millionaire openly took her to his private room, not just to satisfy his desires, but coldly left without a word. They saw her as an object, not a human with feelings and real worth. Then one day, the shadow of despair fell. In 1987, when Lola received the painful diagnosis of multiple sclerosis, it felt like the world had collapsed around her. Sleepless nights, unbearable pain, her once glorious career vanished like stars fading into the night. But her tragedy didn't stop there. A man, her ex, a powerful millionaire from Las Vegas, who she once shared sweet moments and ambitions with, came back to find her, but not to care for or comfort her. He didn't come because he loved her, but because he wanted to take what little she had left. With trembling hands, eyes full of confusion, and a body weakened by illness, Lola couldn't resist. He came, spun empty promises, rekindled old memories, and then secretly pressured her to sign papers she didn't fully understand. Her assets, music contracts, everything she had worked for over the years was all taken away in an instant when Lola was at her most vulnerable. She was no longer the Queen of Las Vegas, no longer the proud woman everyone looked up to. She was just an empty shell, deceived and abandoned by the very person she had once loved. On November 15, 2023, Lola passed away in utter loneliness. Her cold room had no loved ones by her side, no warm embrace to comfort her. Her death wasn't just the end of a star, but the bitter end of a woman betrayed and exploited at her weakest. The solitude she endured during her illness had drained the life out of her, but it was the betrayal, the deception by the one she had trusted, that ultimately killed her. 14. Diaan Carol. The queen of television, her life shattered by love's betrayal. Perhaps everyone knows Diaan Carol, who rose to fame through her role in Julia, 1968, becoming the first black woman to star in her own TV series. Her love life was as high profile as her career, with no shortage of suitors leaving their mark. In the 1980s, few knew that Diaan met a wealthy, powerful man named Harrison Briggs, a successful businessman whom she believed would bring her happiness. They began their relationship in 1982, and he seemed like the ideal man, promising her a prosperous future. Harrison convinced Diaan to invest in a massive real estate project, promising quick wealth and a luxurious life for both of them. Trusting the man she loved, Diaan didn't hesitate to hand him a large sum of money. But by 1984, Diaan started sensing something was wrong. Harrison began avoiding her, not answering her calls, and gradually all communication faded. After months of silence, Diaan decided to investigate and discovered that Harrison had drained her bank accounts and disappeared without a trace. The millions she had saved over the years were now worthless. All her career, love, and hopes were taken away in an instant. Even in her later years, as she battled cancer, the betrayal continued to haunt her. On September 12, 2019, while undergoing a financial audit, Diaan discovered that she had lost another huge sum of money, not just because of Harrison, but also due to a former manager she had trusted. This news shattered her heart. She had lost everything she had worked for, and the sense of betrayal weakened her health even further. From then on, Diaan couldn't continue. Every passing day, she felt like a shadow of her former self, drowning in an inescapable pain. On October 4, 2019, Diaan Carol passed away in Los Angeles, completely alone. She was no longer the bright star of television, but a woman drained of everything, stripped of the joy she once had. 13. Whitney Houston. The bruises that told it all. Whitney Houston, the angelic voice adored by the world, not only had a legendary voice, but was also a victim of a painful love tragedy that filled countless tabloid pages. When Whitney married Bobby Brown in 1992, they became Hollywood's power couple. But few knew that behind the perfect exterior was a life in hell. Bobby, with his rebellious personality and passion for violence, pulled Whitney into a world of drugs, causing her to lose everything. Gradually, he not only led Whitney into addiction, but also turned her into a victim of both mental and physical abuse. One lesser-known detail is that in the final years of their marriage, Bobby subjected Whitney to brutal beatings, with rumors suggesting that one time he slapped her so hard that her face swelled up, yet they still appeared before the public as a perfect couple. On February 11, 2012, the night before the Grammy Awards, Whitney Houston was found in the bathtub of her Beverly Hilton hotel room in Los Angeles. But her death wasn't just shocking because of its suddenness, but also due to the bruises found on her body. Although the official cause was ruled as drowning, some close sources revealed that Whitney might have been attacked before her death. A controversial detail surrounding her death was that Bobby Brown arrived at the hotel the night before, after a long separation, leading many to believe he could have started an argument that led to this tragic event. Some sources even say Whitney was abused in her hotel room before she fell into a drug-induced stupor, drowning in the tub. To this day, Whitney Houston's death remains a mystery, but no one can deny the suffering she endured in love. 12. Vanity. Prince's sexy icon. Haunted by violent men. Vanity, born Denise Matthews, was the sexy icon of the 80s, known for fiery music nights and her famous relationship with Prince. However, few knew that behind the spotlight, her life was filled with pain, darkness, and tragedy, especially in her marriage to David L.D. Alexander, the man she once gave her heart to. In 1986, Vanity married David, a man full of charm but also deeply unstable. What Vanity thought was a sweet love soon became a hellish existence. Constant arguments and brutal beatings became a daily reality in her life. David, with his violent nature, not only battered her, but also forced her to live in constant fear and humiliation. One shocking detail few know is that, on one occasion, Vanity was beaten so badly that her face became swollen, her body covered in bruises, and she had to be hospitalized in critical condition. Despite this, she continued to smile and kept the truth hidden out of fear for her reputation. David's cruelty didn't end there. In the following years, Vanity fell into addiction, turning to drugs and alcohol to numb the wounds that wouldn't heal. It was this addiction that led her to develop kidney disease in 1994. The illness attacked her gradually, weakening both her body and mind. After a long struggle with illness, Vanity passed away on February 15, 2016, marking the end of a life filled with unbearable pain. The bruises on her body, the haunting memories of violence, and the devastation caused by drugs drained her life. Her death wasn't just the loss of a star, but the tragic end of a life tortured by violent men, toxic relationships, and addiction she couldn't escape. 11. Tina Turner, rock queen and Ike Turner's hell. A name that cannot be left out of this list is Tina Turner, the woman with a powerful voice and an indomitable heart, a music legend of the 70s and 80s. But her relationship with Ike Turner, her abusive husband, remains an indelible dark chapter in history. Since their marriage in 1962, Tina fell into the violent cycle that Ike created. She was not only physically abused, but also mentally manipulated. Ike, with his controlling and jealous nature, repeatedly beat her. One of the most shocking incidents occurred in 1968 when Ike attacked Tina so violently that she nearly died. Tina had to be hospitalized, her body covered in bruises, but Ike pressured her to drop the charges to protect both their public images. "I don't know how I survived," Tina once said, "but those scars, both physical and emotional, stayed with me for life." Eventually, after years of suffering, Tina escaped Ike in 1976, but the wounds never healed. The effects of the abuse, the irreparable damage, haunted her for the rest of her life. Even in her final years, Tina's nightmares about Ike continued to torment her. This led many people around her to believe that even though Ike passed away in 2007, his ghost never truly left Tina. Tina Turner passed away on May 24, 2023, after a long battle with cancer and heart failure. But her death wasn't just the result of illness. It marked the end of a life devastated by a violent relationship she couldn't escape, even after leaving Ike many years ago. In her final days, nightmares about Ike kept her from finding peace. Some believe that, despite her triumph on stage, Tina never truly escaped the hell Ike created for her. 10. Phyllis Hyman, the Soul Queen and her painful rejection. Next, we have the tragic secret behind Phyllis Hyman's untimely death. Known as the Queen of Soul, Phyllis never found the true love she longed for throughout her life. In late 1994, Phyllis met a man she thought would be her true love. She loved him with all her heart, believing he would bring her the happiness she had always sought. But the relationship quickly turned into a horrible wound. After making sweet promises, the man suddenly abandoned Phyllis without any explanation. The feeling of betrayal and abandonment caused Phyllis to completely collapse. She wondered how she could continue when love, the one thing she needed, always seemed so out of reach. Endless sleepless nights saw Phyllis drowning her pain in alcohol and sedatives. She felt like a shadow, existing but not truly living. "A part of me has died," Phyllis admitted in her final months. Though outwardly she remained the Queen of Soul, her heart had long since died, leaving only unhealed wounds. On June 30th, 1995, just hours before she was scheduled to perform at the Apollo Theater, Phyllis couldn't take it any longer. She called her ex-boyfriend, the man she still loved despite his betrayal. Her voice cracked with despair. "I can't do this anymore. No one loves me, and I can't keep going like this." Despite hearing the desperation in her voice, he didn't come to her rescue. That final conversation marked the end, not just of a love, but of her life. And so, Phyllis ended her life in her private room, alone, leaving behind all those who loved her in endless pain. 9. Tammy Terrell, the Motown singer who died young after the beats of love. It's heartbreaking to remember Tammy Terrell, a shining star of Motown with a powerful voice and iconic hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough. She was the epitome of talent and charm. Yet behind her fame was a life filled with tragedy and unspoken pain, especially in her relationships with the men she loved. Tammy not only loved James Brown, but once believed he would be the one to bring her happiness. But the truth was, James Brown was not only a cruel man, but also controlling, manipulative, and abusive. Throughout their relationship, James Brown repeatedly beat her, leaving her body covered in bruises and blood. One night in 1967, after a performance, Tammy returned home to find herself beaten unconscious by James, lying motionless on the floor. When she woke up in the hospital, the serious injuries were impossible to hide. But what hurt even more was James's coercion, forcing her to drop the charges and live in silence to protect their reputation. From that moment on, Tammy realized she couldn't escape, that the love she hoped for was, in fact, a nightmare slowly killing her. After leaving James, she thought her relationship with David Ruffin, a member of the Temptations, would be her salvation. But the price she paid was even more painful. Despite loving David, he continued to bring her the same abuse and violence. One night in May 1969, after a drunken argument, David punched her in the head during a fit of jealousy. It felt like something inside Tammy broke, and from that point on, chronic headaches never left her. Despite illness and pain, she continued to perform, to live in the spotlight. But her heart had died long ago. On March 16, 1970, Tammy passed away, leaving the world in shock. Her death at the age of 24 wasn't just from a brain tumor, but also the consequence of years of destruction caused by bad love and constant abuse. The bruises on her body would never fade, and they weren't just physical wounds. They were the marks of a life tortured by toxic love. 8. Florence Ballard. The voice buried dies in poverty from being abandoned. Florence Ballard, born on June 30, 1943 in Detroit, was one of the legendary voices of Motown. She was a founding member of the Supremes, the most famous girl group of the 60s, contributing to timeless hits like Where Did Our Love Go? And Baby Love. But all that glory quickly faded when she was pushed out of the group in 1967. From then on, Florence's life began to fall into darkness. Losing her career and not receiving support from Motown for a solo career, Florence sank into financial and mental despair. She lived in utter loneliness, with no one to lean on. But perhaps the worst part of her story was her relationship with her husband, Tommy Chapman, who brought her nothing but betrayal and constant pain. Throughout their marriage, Tommy struggled with alcohol addiction and regularly abused Florence. Nights filled with punches to her face and constant insults wore down both her body and spirit. She had to visit the hospital multiple times due to her injuries, but fear kept her from escaping. "He beat me to the point where I couldn't breathe," Florence confessed in an interview, yet she couldn't bring herself to leave. On February 22, 1976, at the age of 32, Florence died in Detroit from a blood clot. But many believe her death wasn't just due to illness. It was a result of the years of physical and mental abuse. The wounds left by Tommy Chapman weren't just physical, but ate away at her soul every day. She passed away in poverty, without gratitude or recognition, never having the chance to experience true happiness. 7. Minnie Riperton, the angel of lovin' you, dies young after being left behind. Minnie Riperton, born November 8, 1947, was a legendary voice that music could not live without. Contrasting with her sweet melodies, her life was tragically short and filled with hardship. Minnie married Richard Rudolph in 1970, and they had 2 children. Their family life seemed perfect, but soon her happiness was shattered. In 1976, Minnie was diagnosed with breast cancer. From that point, her life was never the same. She poured all her strength into fighting the cruel disease. But sadly, every time she picked up the microphone, the physical pain flared up and could not be quenched. While people saw her on stage, few knew that behind those lights, a woman was drowning in deep loneliness, her body gradually destroyed by illness. Richard Rudolph, the man she had once trusted, seemed no longer there for her as he had been before. Though he continued his music career, Richard was accused of emotionally abandoning Minnie, not offering the support needed to get her through the painful nights. In her final months, Minnie faced the disease alone in her hospital room, with her husband physically present, but offering no comfort. On July 12, 1979, Minnie passed away at the age of 31. Her death was not only the loss of an angelic voice, but the tragic end of a life that was abandoned. In her final moments, she no longer had the strength to fight, with no reason to continue. Minnie Riperton's death marked the end of a woman who had loved with all her heart, but ultimately had to leave in loneliness, abandoned by the one person she had loved when she needed him the most. 6. Betty Davis, the funk queen, drained to her last cent. Betty Davis was the queen of funk, known for her bold style and groundbreaking hits full of freedom, but her life was shackled by a brutal relationship with Miles Davis. They married in 1968, but their family life from the start was more than just love. It was a hell from which there was no escape. Betty wasn't just the inspiration for Miles's music. She was also the victim of constant abuse. Miles not only beat her, but controlled every aspect of her life, taking all the money she earned from her music career. She was beaten, insulted, and forced to step away from everything that had made her famous. One time, Miles slapped her in front of friends and colleagues, making her feel that she had lost all power over her life. After their divorce in 1969, Betty was left in poverty, with no support from Miles or the music industry she had once conquered. All her money was taken by Miles, and Betty slowly faded from the music world. In her final years, Betty lived in isolation and poverty, with no one to help her despite her past stardom. On February 9, 2022, Betty passed away at the age of 77, forgotten by the world, and left, with no one to help. Her death wasn't just the loss of a legendary voice, it was the tragic conclusion of a life taken, controlled, and destroyed by the man she once loved. A life devoid of any vitality because everything was taken from her. 5. Lolita Holloway, the disco queen, drained and left alone in illness. Did you know that Lolita Holloway, the legendary disco singer with a powerful voice and hits like Love Sensation, endured a tragic life after her career began to fade? Her relationship with her entertainment industry lover was not based on love, but was one of manipulation and abuse. While Lolita struggled to maintain her career, this man not only drained her of money, but also siphoned her finances. He controlled every penny from her performances, giving her no financial freedom. When she developed obesity and serious illnesses, he did nothing to help and abandoned her in her illness. Lolita's friends recall that, in her final days, she couldn't even afford to treat her illness while her lover lived comfortably. She was left in a dark room, lonely, poor, and receiving no help from the man she once loved. Even as her body grew weaker, that man never returned, leaving Lolita to struggle with her pain without any comfort. On March 21, 2011, Lolita Holloway passed away at 64, a death that wasn't just the loss of a magnificent voice, but the end of a life ravaged by emotional abuse and irreversible betrayal. 4. Sylvia Robinson, the mother of hip-hop, dies in addiction and solitude. Like many artists on this list, Sylvia Robinson, founder of Sugar Hill Records, the label that gave birth to the Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, also led a life full of struggle and sorrow. Her world began to darken when her marriage to Joseph Robinson, whom she married in 1959, became distant as Sylvia dedicated all her time to work. After founding Sugar Hill Records in 1979, she had no time left for family. Tensions in her work and home life caused Sylvia to feel more and more isolated. Joseph not only neglected her, but was often distant. Sylvia began to feel like a woman abandoned, trapped between her busy career and a broken family. In her final years, Sylvia tried to numb her pain with alcohol and drugs, but they only deepened her loneliness. On September 29, 2011, Sylvia Robinson passed away from congestive heart failure, left alone in her silent home. What made her death even more tragic was the absence of Joseph Robinson in her final moments. Despite having been together for nearly 6 decades, he wasn't there when she needed him most. Many believe Joseph turned his back on her in her final years, even refusing to care for her when she fell seriously ill. Sylvia's death was not just the loss of a music legend, but the tragic end of a woman who had once been strong, but had to leave in poverty, loneliness, and a lack of care from the very husband she had devoted her life to. 3. Zulema Cusseaux, the soul singer, controlled to ruin. Zulema Cusseaux was a talented funk soul singer, but her life was slowly killed by her husband, Diaan Carol. They married in the early 70s, and though Zulema had big hits, her career never developed as expected. Instead of supporting his wife, Diaan controlled every decision in her career. In 1976, when Zulema wanted to venture into new projects, he forbade her from signing contracts with any record company without his approval. "Without me, you can't succeed," he told her. This control not only stifled her career, but also extinguished Zulema's passion and creative freedom. Feeling trapped in a marriage with no way out, she withdrew from the music industry and sank into loneliness and depression. In her final years, Zulema faced deteriorating health, but Diaan never cared. He abandoned her in sickness, offering no words of comfort, while he had stolen everything from her: her career, passion, and faith in herself. On June 30, 2013, Zulema passed away, alone, with no farewell from her husband, the man who had killed her both physically and mentally. Zulema's death was the result of a life stripped away and abandoned in a cruel way. 2. Renee Diggs, the Starpoint singer, dies in despair after exploitation. Renee Diggs, born March 13, 1954 in New Jersey, was the powerhouse voice of the group Starpoint, known for hits like "Object of My Desire." However, her brilliant career quickly faded when she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, in the early 2000s. This cruel disease not only ravaged her body, but also destroyed her spirit, slowly taking away her ability to move and communicate. During her battle with illness, Tyrone, her lover, and someone she trusted completely, not only abandoned her, but also exploited her pain for his own gain. When Renee needed medical support, Tyrone persuaded doctors not to treat her in a timely manner, worsening her condition. What hurt her most wasn't just the illness, but the fact that Tyrone took money from her accounts without hesitation. In Renee's final days, he quietly siphoned off tens of thousands of dollars from her assets while she was weak and unable to fight back. The sense of being used and abandoned made Renee feel like a puppet in Tyrone's hands, someone she once loved. She struggled not only with physical pain, but with profound emotional loneliness. On August 6, 2005, Renee passed away at the age of 51, alone, with no one by her side except the numbing pain. Her death wasn't just the result of illness, it was the end of a life deceived and exploited to the point of having nothing left. Tyrone, the one person she had trusted, was absent when she passed. Renee's death was the tragic end of a woman once beloved, but who died in isolation, betrayed by the very person who was supposed to love and care for her. 1. Leverne Baker, her last days, still endured abuse from her ex-husband. Leverne Baker's career, a rock and roll legend known for hits like Jim Dandy and Tweedledee, was devastated not only by heart disease, but also by her toxic relationship with Danny, her third husband. Although Leverne had an impressive career, her life was filled with tragedy from failed marriages, particularly the control and abuse from Danny. He not only manipulated her financially, but also damaged her emotionally, leading Leverne to lose confidence and trust in herself. Leverne's heart disease is believed to be partly a result of the years of mental and emotional abuse in her marriage. In her final days, as her health worsened, Danny showed up not to care for her, but to insult her, telling her she was past her prime and didn't deserve help. Leverne had to fight in solitude with no one by her side in her final months. On March 10, 1997, Leverne passed away at 67 from heart disease, a death that wasn't just due to illness, but also the result of a life taken, exploited, and never truly loved. We've just gone through 17 tragic deaths and the schemes behind them that could be straight out of a movie. These talented women were betrayed by their lovers, pushed into the shadows, and left to die in solitude. Their deaths serve as painful reminders of toxic relationships and deception in love. How many more tragedies like this are still unfolding in Hollywood? Leave your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more hidden truths revealed in upcoming videos.